Well, too bad. We're ready. Get ready, Danny.
Get
You've had
ready.
all morning to get ready.
How do I look?
You're fine. I tried to find my crazy shaman picture. You know, the guy beating the drum that has long hair like you. That's
Oh, yeah.
But I couldn't get it in the format that it wanted to show it on StreamYard. So you're safe for a while, Danny, but it's
Good.
fine.
All right. Well, let me know when we're going live.
We're live. I said that. I said we're live. What do you want me to say? There are
Hello,
people
everybody.
watching us, Danny.
What's that?
Welcome everybody to our elemental show.
Yeah, welcome. Trying out new technology of double streaming. See how that works.
I hope it does.
Helene, sunny but chilly California. It is cold out here.
Yeah, I woke up. It was below freezing here.
Yeah, no, it was like 46.
They were sledding in Houston yesterday. There were
Really?
people sledding. They had 3 to 5 inches. There were people in Alabama who were pulling out their kayaks and using those as sleds.
Wow.
But we don't have climate change. I want y'all to know.
No climate change. What do the elementals think of this climate change?
They're helping bring it in.
They're helping bring in the climate change?
So because we won't wake up otherwise. I'd much rather have them do that than start a volcano on my back door. Of course, we start having volcanoes in the center of Texas. Y'all are in real trouble.
You like one of those oil wells? It's a little mini volcano.
Well, actually the fracking did cause minor earthquakes.
Yeah, yes.
And they made them stop in Dallas County because it was shaking downtown, and downtown is not built to be shaken.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so how much disaster money will go into Dallas if they have a big earthquake that knocks things down?
If we have a bad earthquake, the first thing that happens is the Trinity River levees open up, and Dallas becomes Lake Michigan.
Oh.
The second thing that happens is buildings just aren't usable. But I lived in a 13-story high rise that was a converted industrial building. It had been built by an oil company from California that was going to move to Texas. They never did. It sat empty until someone got rid of the asbestos, and then they moved the old people in. But it was a really beautifully arranged building, considering it wasn't built to be apartments. But I lived on the 3rd floor, and I was sitting at home one Saturday night, and all of a sudden I was in my cushy, loungy chair. And you know how when you're in a car and you go up over a curb and you go whoop, whoop?
Yeah.
And that's what it did. And I went, but I'm not driving down the street and I'm not near a curb. Well, that's all it did on the floor I lived on. But the floor was 13 stories high. I had some friends that were at a card game on the 13th story. And the whole table, all the cards and everything was whoop.
Yeah.
That was I wasn't there the day it happened, but they had 6 in one day. And
yeah.
Your little afterbeats and stuff.
Aftershock, yeah.
Right. And then they said the fracking, and they were fracking by where the old Dallas Cowboys Stadium was, which was kind of down the road from me. So they made them stop. And in my building, they had to come in and re-secure every window in the building. It wasn't cheap. I had a friend who came home from work, and his driveway, the curb to his driveway had dropped 2 feet.
Yeah. I mean, Alice, she's in the chat, and she knows. People in California know. I mean, the thing with earthquakes for me is that they get your attention really, really quick, and then you're on edge for the next 3 weeks, because you never know. You'll start like, was that one? Is it going to get worse? Because it'll rumble and then it'll get worse. We had, I lived through a couple of them. The Northridge earthquake. Oh my God, we walk into our kitchen and it looked like Picasso was in there. Ketchup and mustard, I don't know where it came from, but was all over the wall. And it was just this, more like a Jackson Pollock, I should say.
Mhm.
Not Pollock, Pollock.
Okay, Danny, show your Midwestern roots.
Yeah, Jackson Pollock. He's
Mhm.
a funny painter. He likes. I don't make no sense out of it at all, but some people like it. All right, enough of that.
Anyway, no, and what they said is all of the okay. How do we get to elementals? How do you want us to start with elementals? Do you want me to start
Oh,
with elementals?
say that again.
Do you want me to start with the elementals, or do you want to?
I want to start.
Okay, start.
I'm going to take over the show. So let's start from the beginning.
Mhm.
How do you connect? How did you connect to the elementals the very first time? Or what is an elemental?
An elemental is, and they are actually our projection of what the energy is that's in an elemental. But the way I met them was I woke up one night and this face was staring at me, and that's Cecil. He's my dragon.
Mm.
And he's not my dragon. He's the one who escorts me around. He said, "Get on my back." So, I've been a psychic for a long time, so I do a lot of weird things. So I got on his
Was
back.
this in a dream or was this in?
I was asleep and I didn't. I mean, he would not fit in my bedroom, Danny. This is time.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got on his back, and they're not scaly and hard. He was actually kind of soft, and he started flying me around the world, and he was flying me over like the Eiffel Tower in Paris and
Nice.
Big Ben in London, and I'm like, this is cool. And he said, we're going where you need to go now. And I said, what? And we were over the North Sea, and this opened up, this portal.
Ooh.
And he said, we're going to follow them in. So we followed him in, and I tried to squish up. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm riding on a damn dragon. If he can make it through, I can make it through.
What are the little balls?
They're just dots. They're just dots that were there. Lights, like sort of like
Are they going into the portal too?
They were going down into the portal too.
Okay.
So we go down into the portal. We get there, and we're standing in a woods. And this is the best picture I could find of my Weasley pictures of woods. Where'd he go? And we were standing in a woods, something like what's behind the pictures of Danny and I. It was very Tolkien-esque. And he said, you can get off now. And I'm like, okay, but don't go anywhere because I don't know how to find that hole without you, And all of a sudden, out of the woods came a complete array of every kind of mythical creature.
Yeah.
I would call mythical creature. They came towards me, and the reason I could see them as I was seeing them is because they use your brain and your wiring to present themselves so you understand who they are. And they said, come, we're having a party. And they were all dressed in regalia, and some were in long robes and some were short little critters. And there were salamanders and little dragons. And then there was one other big dragon and a unicorn. I mean, the whole array. And I went into the party, and they were talking to me like, oh, we're so glad you came. We're glad you accepted our invitation. And I was like, I guess. And
accepted it. Did you have a choice? That big old dragon said, get on.
You always have a choice. I could say, I ain't getting on your back, guy.
Yeah. And then what would the dragon do?
I don't know. And Cecil wouldn't hurt anybody.
Oh, I'm not talking about, they just pester you till you get on.
I know. So and they were talking to me, and I said, why did you invite me here? And they said, because you have an innate understanding of ritual, because you've been through the earth so many times, and you are tied to the earth like we are. And I said, what do you mean I'm tied to the earth like you? And they said, we're children of Gaia, like you are a child of Gaia. You're a child of the planet. Your sense of humanity understands the crystals and the earth. You work with the crystals. We talk to you all the time through the crystal work you do. And I said, okay. So we talked for a little bit. And it was like a nice party. And then they said, you can go back to the clearing. And I went in. I said, Cecil, what's going to happen? He said, get on my back. And the next thing I knew, it was Saturday morning
Oh,
in my bedroom.
okay.
So I was
Okay,
like,
hang on. Got questions.
sure.
Okay. Did they have pizza at the party? Okay, no, never mind.
No, they had some really good stuff that tasted like wine, but didn't put me on my ass. So
Oh, okay. When they said that you were that you understood rituals,
yes.
so what are the rituals that they are asking us to do, or why is that important, rituals? I mean, because I'm a big ritual guy too, so I love this concept.
But I had been doing 9 candles and those
Okay.
kinds of
Okay.
inclusive rituals and
Okay.
bringing people in. And I think that's what they meant. And also, I build these little gems. This is not an advertisement, but if you'd like to know about it, you can contact me. And I'm sorry to the lady who I owe this to. I'm going to get it in the mail today, I promise. But this is a crystal grid. I work with stones.
Oh, yeah.
So I help people tie in to the center of what they need. And that's what elementals do if
Yeah.
you work with them. So I guess they just felt like I had a stronger connection. I don't think I've ever been an elemental. They're really kind of a different life form than we are. And the other thing is, and one thing they kept telling me is, you humans, and it's kind of like you people, you humans, we're not angels, we're not aliens. When we appear to people, we explain to them who we are, and they say, "Oh, I saw an angel." Well, no, maybe you didn't. And when you meet a dragon, you may have not met the devil. Dragons are actually very lovely creatures. So they said you need to understand this, and you have worked with enough of the energy, and plus I've gotten to the point with my energy that I can see them. So they said, and they sent me off with Cecil, and I woke up and it was the next day, and I was like, lovely. But I kept getting these messages in my brain. When are you going to talk about us on your channel?
So yeah, so and I've been getting that too, not as strong as yours, but going back to the ritual part, when you're the thing that resonates with me so much on this. I mean, we all do this journey. We all take this spiritual path in our own unique way. So for you, grabbing the rock, the crystal, arranging it, playing with it, meditating on it, that ritual drops you into this space. I would imagine of Mother Earth and Gaia, and down into the core of that energy flux. I don't know, that word just popped into my head. I'm not sure why.
Well, you're saying it's like you're by a river and you get in a certain stream, so you can drift to a certain place. Yeah,
right. So it's I do it a lot through my shamanic journeying, through trance meditation. But the journey was the first thing that I did that really took me down into that portal energy. And there's so much ritual that is associated with that. And I've just been really focusing on because I've been hearing we have to get back to the ritual. That's what I've been hearing, in the ritual of connecting, obviously, with Mother Earth, Father Sky, and all the elements that are part of this. So,
well, you have to understand, this is working with the crystals. Introduced me to a person that, if I say his name, don't fall asleep, Danny. Rory Duff.
oh,
He's a little dry, but he talks.
I like Roy. Nancy Jean and I,
It's a
we have
joke.
a thing because he sits on his couch and he says all this really amazing and sometimes deep stuff. And my eyes, I have to watch this guy like 4 times to get through his one video because I keep falling asleep. But it's like fascinating, but he puts me to sleep.
But
So
this is what he talks about. What this is, this is one representation
yeah.
of how there are power lines, power energetic lines all over the earth. And the first time I saw Rory Duff talk, he talked about how every 13,000 years, geologists would find these shifts in the stones, and they finally realized that the shift they were seeing in the stones was from some kind of cosmic event that was pushing power on the earth and changing things.
Mm-hmm.
And no one understood because we were that up until then, all the human tools could protect us from the bad radiation that, wants to fry us, that's from outer space. And in 2017, we rolled away in the galaxy, we rolled away from in space some sort of cosmic barrier that had been there that kept the neutrinos and all that stuff from coming, the little guys that are really quick. And people like Rory, who he's a geobiologist. He's a geologist, but he watches the health of the earth. They began to realize if this accelerates, we could get the kind of energy we've been wondering how it was changing the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, they were thinking that far ahead. I'm sitting here still in my little chair going, there's stuff that can shift rocks. What's it going to do to us? We're soft tissue, And so I started following him, and he was talking about the ley lines, and ley lines are, the tradition of them came out of England, but they're actually all over the world.
Yeah.
And then I watched a guy named Hamish Miller, who goes all over the world connecting the big ley lines, the big earth chakra ley lines.
Yeah.
And I went out and I said, a couple of years ago, I said, I want a ley line. I want to go find a ley line. I want to find a ley line. And I heard, go look outside your driveway, get to the end of your drive. I live in a condo situation. There's a big green belt, and see what you can find there. And what I found there was Hogarth. Hogarth is a tree. Okay. This is Hogarth. And you see all those little knots on him?
Yeah, look at him.
Well, those little knots are because he's sitting on a ley line. And so much energy flows through the earth underneath him that he's kind of overexposed to it. So they grow these knots. And the way I found out about that was I was talking to a Akashic Records architect he doesn't architect Akashic Records. He's an architect who does Akashic Records. And he said, oh, yeah, go out in the woods. Well, in Texas, going out in the woods is a bit of a trip. But he said, go out in the woods and find a tree that's got some of those sort of bumps. They're called burls.
Burls, yeah.
And then look around you and walk around the tree, and you'll see another tree with burls in a straight line from it. And then if you go on the other side of the tree, you'll see another tree with a straight line that has burls in it. And our trees here don't grow that close together, so that doesn't happen much. So what happened is I found Hogarth, and I went, well, are you really a ley line tree? Where's your ley line? And I didn't see anything. And a week later, I walked out, and the grass, I swear to God, from one side of that tree, just like as if it went through it, there was a big yellow line, like the universe. And that's what the elementals told me. They said, look, we have to draw lines for you. You just don't walk out into the energy that way. So,
you so stupid. We have to draw lines for you. And that's for me, because my awareness sometimes is so shifted, and I'm not focused on the right thing.
Yeah, so I went out with my dowsing rods, and when I went over the yellow lines, they went nuts. And then I began to watch it because it's supposed to grow and expand. And the big thing was this year, those who meditate on this information said the ley lines are going to quit. They get stick straight on the solstices and the equinoxes. And, when the seasons change, they get stick straight. And I went out and
They get what straight? They get what?
They get straight. If you're out there and it's like a normal day, like any other day of the year, they wander a little bit. They wave a little bit. They kind of follow the moon, sunset. Yep. But trust me, guys, this is a whole science thing in England. There's a Google site you can go to and follow people's ley line maps. And they were saying the ley lines are growing. They're growing like a few inches during the year. And
you mean wider?
Wider.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Rory said, and come the winter solstice this year, they are going to become stick straight and stay straight. They're not going to wander anymore.
Straight. Okay.
Stick straight.
Yeah,
like
got it.
And I went out and I went and I asked Hogarth, well, how wide are they going to make your path? Because, don't ask me because I'm not any good at this stuff. And he told me, you need to look this time. It will show you need to look. And I was like, really? I need to look.
We're not drawing things in the grass anymore. You got to figure this out.
We're not going to paint. Well, what they did, and I didn't pull that picture out of my picture file, they put an electric blue flower in the middle of the driest piece of ground. I mean, Texas cracked earth ground. And I was walking home I went, it's going to get that wide? And I can hear Hogarth's voice in my head. And he said, yes. And I said, it's going to change that fast? And he said, everything is going to change fast and even faster.
Yeah.
And I said, what's that like for you? He said, I'm rooted to the ground. I'm fine. Worry about yourself.
Well, that tells me that this lapis azul, maybe I should put it down and get more grounded.
Yeah, that'll throw you into your brain instead.
Yeah, so get a little more grounded, which I think a lot of us really need to focus on, grounding ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of really scattered energy going on. So when you go through those, when you go hit that ley line, when you're playing in that energy field,
mm-hmm.
and you have your dowsing rods,
mm-hmm.
Is there, if you don't have them, how would you connect to the energy if you don't have those?
When I first found the ley line, when it turned yellow, I didn't have my dowsing rods with me. I just ran up and down it and said, oh, it's fun. And all of a sudden I knew, get off it. That's too much energy for you. And I went home and I was feeling ill. So it's a lot of energy if you're not really rooted and ready for it.
Is there a way that you can, that you, Nancy Jean, can sense it now if you are crossing one? What's it feel like?
I used to paint and wallpaper.
Mm-hmm.
And one time I was wallpapering in a place and they were supposed to have all the power off so I could cut around the little electric things. And someone didn't turn the power off to that particular light switch.
Yeah.
It's like that, Danny. It's like I got thrown 3 feet. My blade was burnt. Yeah, it's like that.
It's like that. Now, just to go back to the very beginning of what we were talking about, we experience things in different ways. Everyone will experience it differently. So you may not get thrown on the ground like Nancy did, like an electric shock. Oh my gosh. Oh my hand tingles just with the thought of that happening to you.
It was freaky.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that I saw today, when I'm down in my garden, we have big 400-year-old oak trees that, because I live in California with all the fires there, I don't trim them that much. I don't mess with them, but they do overhang my house. They're a little close. And so I've been prepping them that I'm going to need to trim their nails because if I don't do it, then the fire department will. And
they're not gentle.
No, they're not going to be gentle. But so I'm looking at, and I'm just looking around, and I feel the elemental energy in that space. It is so powerful. And, I'm feeling the heaviness of the time that we are in. And I look down, and here is, and I wish I had my phone and my camera to take a picture of it, but here is one lone purple flower with all these little petals sticking. It was just perfect, and it was just letting me know that there's more to the heaviness that we're feeling today, that Gaia is, and the elemental energy is here to support us and is here to straighten us out or knock us on our butts if we're not aware of what Gaia is all about and what she can do. So I just found it neat. And as I was shuffling my cards, this is the that I got as I cut the deck.
Very good.
Joy. So we got a lot going on. It's going to be a wild dragon ride, I think.
It's not just the dragons, it's all the other critters that can come along with it. And if you want to get what I think is an interest, if you're a reader and if you're looking for books, these are two of the best books I've found on understanding elementals.
Yeah.
First one's Celtic Myths and Legends by Charles Squire. The language is a little old-fashioned. This was his PhD paper at Oxford in 1904.
Yeah.
And what he did is he went through the Celtic parts of the British Isles, and he also went over to Brittany, where there's a strong connection, in France. And he interviewed people about the elementals that had been there a long time ago. And what really happened to the elementals, and the reason they went underground, is because we quit using the land as it was meant to be used. That's their world, is being on that land, like Hogarth's on that land out there. Their way of being in the world is to be connected to the land. So the whole thing about watching fairy rings sing and lights and hearing them, and in a lot of these places they had the thing of the family would leave a dish of milk out for them, and you honored them, you understood these other beings were around you, and they made your life somewhat better by doing that. And the reason I like his book is because he goes all the way back before we went into the Jupiter and Saturn only being in the Earth signs, which was a 200-year cycle. He talked to people that lived before that started. And so he had real eyewitnesses to it. It's an interesting book. I actually had it read to me. You can fix it up so it's on audiobook. You can find it on all of the things. And then the other book is The Incredible Secret Life of Fairies, which is, she's a contemporary woman named Maggie Hamilton. And I was talking with another reader who runs a book club. And she said somebody suggested this book club to her, and she knew what I did. She talked to me and she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Go read it." She said it was one of the best books they ever read in that book club. For understanding, because the elementals are in many ways, I think they're closer to the real spirituality that those of us who live in human form have. But remember, we're all just star energy wrapped in some kind of wrapper so we can see each other. But I find elementals are easier to read. I mean, I've worked with angels, and I don't work a whole lot with aliens. They come snatch me occasionally, but I find the elementals are a much softer and an energy that I can relate to much more quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I find that, you know, when we tap into this energy, if we're just if we just play in that energy and welcome that energy in versus going, oh, that's just a bunch of nonsense. You're just, you know, you're believing in fairies, really? Fairy tales? Come on. You know, so we've pulled away from that, and you mentioned that with the Industrial Revolution. It's like, let's look at the facts. Let's look at what we can do to make money. How do we make money off of the earth? And so we strip the earth of its magic,
Mm-hmm.
because we're looking for, in my opinion, the wrong thing. We're looking for the dollar or whatever, gold, oil, whatever, to make us happy. But and it feels like the elemental energy just starts getting hidden from this mining aspect. But it's changing. We're shifting.
Well, okay. It's changing and we're shifting. And the deal is that they went and hid from us.
Yeah.
They said it was too painful for them to be fully functioning and as happy as they wanted to be. They needed to be in touch with the human energy. So what they did is they go run along the ley lines. And so they're kind of around us, but they're not as obviously there as they were in other cultures. They are obviously there. This is kind of, these are my last. This is Jada and Little One. They're the latest two that come out and talk to me about stuff. They really encourage me to push this show, and the other ones. This is the equivalent of in Mexico. He's called Nalux. That's he's sitting in a shell. That he doesn't live in a shell. He's sitting in a shell, and that's sort of a pixie fairy critter kind of person that's in Mexico. And the way I became aware of them was I saw this article. This is an alux in a tree.
Mm.
And it was threatening people that were building a road in Mexico. I mean, the people building the road. So I said, we're not building the road there anymore because those guys are there. And people go, oh, and the Mexican government got conned by that. And I can't find it. And I thought I separated out. I'm sorry, people, but come another show, I'll show you. There was a highway between Cancun and the main airport that served Cancun.
Yeah.
And they built it, and it kept falling apart. And I mean, they were the second time they built it, they had people out there doing specs on what was going in every mile to make sure it was okay. Still fell apart. Finally, the wise men from that part of Mexico went to the government and said, you're building your road over their houses, and they don't like it. And I actually do have a picture of this. They built underneath the overpasses. They built like the fairy houses you put in your gardens.
Yeah.
They built them for the Aluxes, and that highway is now held for 10 years.
Huh.
So you don't screw with them. I mean, when there's sort of immediate consequences. Jeffrey and I did a whole show on it, and he went out and he was just sitting in a restaurant, and this guy said, well, what are you doing? And all the people in Mexico, Jeffrey's never going to learn Spanish because everybody wants to practice their English on him. And he was explaining, he was looking at the Eleusis, and the guy goes, Oh, my father had them on the farm, and he just got inundated with people that come from the rural area about how they'll come and they'll help you with your farm, and you have to set so much off for them to
For
have.
them.
And if you start screwing around or don't behave or I mean, they're not ordering you to do stuff, but if you act outside of what they consider right, all of a sudden your crop will die. I mean, they take this very seriously.
Yeah.
They're tied to the land and they actually see them, and we don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because our sensibilities are not of the land anymore. You know, we're
Mm-hmm.
always inside. Well, because it's so dang cold for most of us. But even in the summer, there's, we can get so much healing and information just by being outside. And
Mm-hmm.
some of the great shamans, they all work outside. They don't work inside. They
Mm-hmm.
go outside to do their ceremonies. So there's a lot to be said for that. And they are connecting with the spirit of the land, which is the elementals,
That's right.
which are the elementals.
And and people say, but they're all different shapes and sizes, and this is true. And they also tend to, the stories about them are adopted through our culture, so they're made to what are our culture norms. And dragons are always trying to run off the maiden, and they're always having to be slayed by knights in Western lore. But my favorite dragon story, and this one came from Engla. Um, it's in it was in Finland, and this young couple were doing what young couples do, and it was back in the Middle Ages, and so they sent the young man out into the wilderness, and of course the girl they chained to the beach so that the dragon could come eat her, and then of course there she was chained to the beach, and the whole village had to come down and make sure they watched her be humiliated. Sound familiar?
Mm.
So all of a sudden the dragon came out of the sea, and he said, where is the father of this person, and where is the person who were their spiritual leaders, or in other words, whatever the faith was
Yeah.
at the time? And so they went to the village and they got him, and they said, the dragon wants to talk to you. So they went down to the shore, I guess expecting to be lauded, and the dragon reached over and he ate the father and he ate the religious leader. And he told them to let this poor girl go, bring the young man back, and to do better with training their children. I like that story.
Where's the religious leader? Here.
Yeah. See him sending everybody but.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, some of the people in the chat say this is awesome. I have actual pictures of elemental beings.
Mm.
One nature diva in a beautiful dress holding a wand at the base of a tree trunk.
Uh-huh.
And she has pictures of a gnome. What
Uh-huh.
fun. I've had people send me their pictures out of their gardens, and there's critters there.
There's critters.
They're critters.
I think we were talking backstage about this, about the Pacific Northwest. I went up there last summer, and the elementals are all over the place. I mean, just hanging from the trees and in the just everywhere. It's so phenomenal. The energy is great up there.
And when you connect to them, they share with you. They really, really actively share with you. And, they tell me, you better go out. I know what they're going to do to me if I don't do it. Well, I do know. Fairies and the little guys, like the little elephant guy whose name I can't say, call him little guy. They like to move things. Like Trodex, which is, I know. So I have a deck I still can't find. My bunny deck. I guess they really like the bunny deck because the but really one day when I was first working with them, and I can at night where I sit in my living room, I can see towards my office and I can see going across the things, and I know they're back here playing.
Yeah.
Um, and I was going to do a show with someone, and I wanted to have their deck out because it was, and I had it out, and Casey and I had been discussing it. Casey's my daughter. She's not a fairy or anything else. She's just a person who lives here. And I came out just before the show, getting ready to line everything up, and I went, "Oh my God, it's gone. Where did it go?" So she and I took everything apart looking for it, and I was super apologetic. And I told her I liked it so much I carried it somewhere where I wouldn't lose it. And now
It's gone.
2 days later, I was walking from the kitchen to my bedroom, which walks right by where my office is. There in the middle of the floor where you absolutely could not miss it, that deck was laying. And my daughter says, "That's fine, Mom. They can play all they want in your room. But I do not," she works from home for a university. She said, "I don't want them messing with my stuff."
Yeah.
And they don't. They're very respectful.
And I don't work with the elementals that much, but when you're working with unseen energies, just general, you get to say whether they can come in, whether they can't come in, whether you want to play with them, not play with them. I mean, we have a voice, and so I think it's important to make sure that our boundaries are set with that. And so, yeah.
And also, we can't order them. I can't say, "Cecil, show up tonight. I want to go to that world." It won't happen. I don't think.
Yeah. I've been asking him for the lotto numbers, and I've been really insistent, and that hasn't happened. So I think you're right.
You can't do that, Danny.
I'm trying. I can try though, can't I?
You can try. You can do whatever you want, Danny. I promise. I have no control over what Danny does. I have little enough control over what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So where else should we go with the elementals? I love this. I love this concept of just going into a not right now, but going into the meditative process, and just going into a ley line and seeing what that energy is like, and coming up to a tree of Hogarth's relations or something. I love that energy. I love doing that.
I've had a lot of people find their ley line trees. They just go out and walk around the neighborhood, and they said, so one woman said, "I've been walking by that tree for 20 years.
Yes.
I never appreciated what it was, so I went and talked to it." I work with, sometimes I have shows with Tim, and he's from England, and he heals earth energies. If you wanted him to heal your house, to see if you could send him sort of a little map of what your house looks like. Doesn't even have to be a great map. And he uses a pendulum and he swings it, and then he gets impressions of what sort of energies are there. And of course, he lives in England where there's energies everywhere, guys.
Yes.
They've been there for so long. But there's a lot of energies here that we don't honor because somebody's talking about there's a ley line under the Natural History Museum in Chicago, and that's on the edge of Lake Michigan. And there is, when you look at really important sites where a lot of information comes through, you'll find out that there's ley lines there.
Yeah.
Somebody told me there's a ley line that runs straight down Fifth Avenue. I can't imagine what that must be like for the elementals that ever go down a ley line that's right down the middle of Fifth Avenue. Think about that.
Yeah. So you also have talked about, we started off with dragons. You also talked about dragon lines. right?
Yeah, dragon lines are they're like an upgraded ley line,
Yeah.
and there were 4 of them 10 years ago, and there's 6 of them now. They come out of the edge of the ocean and they move across and they sort of consolidate ley line energy. There's a ley line that goes from the coast of California to Holy Hill, which is in Wisconsin.
And so where did you find out this information about dragon?
I read articles about it. I look it up. I Google it.
Rory Duff.
Rory Duff has a thing. Rory Duff, you know how you say, I'll send you my monthly newsletter. It won't be overly much. He sent one that was 90 pages long. So I'm warning you guys. And he wrote a book, and I read the first 2 pages and I read the last page of each chapter, because everything in between is geologist and scientist. And
That's so technical.
that's not what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's also, you can Google him on, well, not Google him, look him up on YouTube. He's done several interesting shows, and it depends on the person who's interviewing him. But Danny's right. He sits on a black Chesterfield couch, and he doesn't hardly move. But he's full of interesting stuff. And you can find Hamish Miller, and you can find Tim Walter. They're both on YouTube. And
Isn't Hamish, isn't he
Hamish is
in
deceased.
spirit? What?
He's in spirit, but as Tim says, I think he's around me more now than when I used to film him.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah. And I used to work with a guy named Johan. He was from South Africa.
Right.
He used to go around the earth reconnecting the ley lines where they'd split, because apparently the patterns of the ley lines were set up by nature when we were Pangea, when we were all one big continent.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of splits when you get to South Africa, because then it splits and goes under the Indian Ocean and goes to Australia. And I don't know how many people know this, but some of the oldest surface land you can walk on in the world is in Australia.
Mm.
So it kind of get torn. But there's one thing where Hamish went around to find all of the centers for the chakras of the earth. And it was really fascinating when you'd watch him use his pendulums and see how things worked when he got there. And one place in New Zealand, everybody said, oh, it's here. It was this big, dark pool.
Yeah.
No, it's this little one over here. Y'all have been going to the wrong place.
Wrong place. Yes. So one of the things that when I first went up to Shasta, I found out that it was the root chakra.
Yeah, it's the root chakra
of the earth, and I went, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't know what that means, but I know when I go there, it is the energy is so phenomenal. It's, I mean, palpable. It's so strong up there. So.
Well, I have one person who's going to talk about what's happened with her. This is Debbie. She kept telling me she had a dragon that wouldn't talk to her, and she could see it. She could hear could see all its physical characteristics. And I said, go talk to it. And she goes, oh, well, why didn't it come up and talk to me? Well, they don't work that way, guys. You have to go. Sometimes you have to reach out to them. And now she knows her dragon's name is Cirrus.
Cirrus. Yeah. Good. I don't get names that often.
I get them and I can't say them, so they may as well have not said it.
Yeah. And that's what I hear too. They go, you know, call me Bob. Okay. Yeah. So, Lauren was saying that Pam Gregory
does stuff on it.
Yeah, and she's got some good guests on her show.
Well, that's where I saw Rory the first time, when he was talking about how the energies in the universe had changed. you and I did some shows. Was one of the 9 candles was riding the mystery wave, and
Mm-hmm.
there's this giant hum that they actually had to build an instrument so they could follow it constantly because it was like a real hit and miss, and it ends up it's 2 black holes that are at the very edge of the universe that are spinning around each other, and eventually they're going to boom together. But there's so much energy out there that if you open yourself up to everything, you're gonna be back in bed at 10 in the morning. You're gonna be exhausted.
Yeah. What time is it? Time to go to bed now.
No, I actually did get up early because I said I'm gonna be on the air with Danny.
Oh, come on now.
No, I did. I said that to my cat, and she looked at me like, "Who the hell's he?"
Yeah, yeah. I'm with the cat. Yeah, it's yeah, I'm just I mean, I love this conversation. I think the more that we get into it, and for me, my experience this last, I don't know, probably 4 months, 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
probably 4 months. I don't know, but the things that I thought I knew, I'm like layering things on top of it, more and more, and it's like the layers that come on top of what I thought I knew just kind of like open up and
Mm-hmm.
hugely, and I'm just like, oh, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how to connect to this, to that. So this elemental conversation is just so fascinating to me because I think that's the next space that I will be dropping into and really connecting with a lot of the fays and fairies and going into that magical place that
Mm-hmm.
that they're calling us to go
Mm-hmm.
to heal the planet and to get away from some of the things that are polluting the planet.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they're angry about, and they're angry that we uh, whether we set up as a ritual that we follow to change things, but if each person makes small steps towards the changes, it's not going
Mhm.
to be the giant leap we really need. But trust me, we don't want them come out making that choice to make the giant leap.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're benevolent in that they don't really want to hurt us, but if we screw with them enough, they will come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they've everybody was like, where did the elementals go? They actually went, they're in some energetic space that's inside the planet. That's all I can tell you. They didn't give me a map, and my GPS doesn't go there.
Oh, you need to upgrade your GPS then.
No,
No?
my
Okay.
poor little car has a hard enough time making it to and from where I want it to go. Did I
Yeah.
tell you that when I came
TikTok has,
home?
never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, when I came home from having had it inspected in December, and this was the last month that you had to have that one. Texas has also gotten rid of car inspections.
Oh,
So
good.
now we'll go back to the era of driving down the road and having people's car doors fly off and hit us. But I went in, and of course my car was in the last month because otherwise I would have just I had a small touch of the side of my car, but it's bright orange, so it doesn't look small. And I thought there's no way this car is going to pass. So I went to a place I've gone to for a long time, and I really waited for them to come out and say, this and this needs to get fixed. It passed. When I came home and told the kids that my car, it's a 2005, had passed, they all kind of stood there. Really? I think they were sort of hoping maybe it wouldn't. I was seriously debating getting rid of a car, but I
Yeah.
live in a town where that's very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. But I find that but when we were backstage, I was thinking about this before. When I first started the channel, I mentioned something about just doing our little bit to pick up pieces of garbage and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday, I was in a parking lot, and there were two empty oil containers. It looked like somebody, put some oil in their 2005 beat up car.
HHR. Don't pick on my car.
I'm sorry. And it just threw the containers on the parking lot ground. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go get it after I go work out. Which, well, we won't get into that because that was not fun. It was fun, but I didn't do much workout. I kind of sat on my phone. Anyway, I was at the gym, and so when I came back, I picked it up, and then I found this thing, and I spent like 15 minutes picking up garbage in that parking lot. And I go, well, somebody else will do it. I don't need to do this. They'll have somebody else come in with a big machine and scoop everything up. And I go, you can't rely on anybody else to do the work. We got to do. And then I went to the beach and I looked at sea otters, and there's cigarette butts all over the place, right next to the little thing that says "Put your butts here."
Mm-hmm.
Then I flick, and I'm like, ay, ay, ay.
Why would anyone flick a cigarette in California?
Well, it was by the ocean. There was nothing to burn except seagulls eat it, the sea otters eat it. Yeah, it gets in the ocean, and oh, I don't know. Yeah,
I haven't been to the shore in a long time.
yeah. I'm lucky where I live. Lucky.
I know. Here's somebody who went to Glastonbury.
Oh, Jill. Hey.
Visited Glastonbury. Thor. Yeah, that place is incredible. And the energy was palatable. I also visited the ruins of Glastonbury Cathedral. Stepped into the ruin and got chills up and down my spine. That's walking around England is one giant woo.
Yeah. Yeah. Not so much, and I was listening to you and Tim talk when you were talking about the lapis azul, and we're talking about the energy of England, but London, it's all cement, so that energy isn't as good as when you go out into some of the smaller places where it gets to be where they get to shine.
Yeah, and if you want ley lines, they have maps of them. Glastonbury's on the Michael Mary ley line. There's like
Michael Mary ley line.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
It's religious place. Well,
Archangel Michael.
Yeah,
Mother Mary.
Because Mother Mary. They're made cathedrals that are along it, but
okay,
it's like Holy Hill in Wisconsin. Before Holy Hill was a big cathedral thing in Wisconsin, and Scott went to check it out for me, and he said he found it wasn't where everybody thought it was. It was like down the trail. It's where he felt the vibrations, but it was a holy site for Indians. I mean, it was a sacred site for Indians. So a lot of the sacred sites that were in England, you always hear that story about how when the Anglo-Saxons came in and they became Christians, they built their churches where they used to.
Yeah.
They're all by springs. They're all by what they call wells, springs and stuff. There's a real consistent pattern there. And they did tend to build up on what they already had. That's what they did. But and of course, when I was there, when I was 17, I ran into a ghost in London. They're there. And and when I went back visited with my husband, he'd grown up in London, and he actually physically inside the greater London areas where he grew up. And all his siblings had through the years spread out all over the place. So he drove all over England and went to different places. And what we ended up following more was the Roman history, where the Roman rooms and the Roman floors and the tiles and all that stuff are. But there's there's just a lot of energy, but that energy is available to us in our own way, in our own world. It's here. It's not, that's when you read these two books, The Incredible Lives of Fairies, and
Hmm.
about her journey of, she started seeing fairies when she was quite young, and she's written this really good book on kind of how to work with that sort of energy. And um, these Celtic myths and stuff. I was a weird child. You're probably shocked to hear that, Danny. But when I was little,
I never would have guessed.
the book next to my bed that was there the most consistently, that and Agatha Christie, was a book about this thick, and it was myths and legends from around the world, and it was everywhere. South Sea Islands, South America, all of them. And I'd read that whole book to the point that it was, I just open it up and start reading about something. So I've been connected that way. I know I was being led to be connected, but trust me, if you open your arms up to them, they'll be there.
They'll be there.
They're
Yeah.
warm, they're loving, they're caring. There's there was a Netflix, and I don't think it's up right now, but if you ever get a chance to see it, it's called Dead Boy Detectives.
Oh.
It's about two souls that don't want to go to heaven, and they're young men, and so they stay and they work on the earth. That movie probably had the least sensationalistic view of dealing with elemental energy I've ever seen.
Huh.
So
Dead boy
detectives.
Dead boy detectives. All right.
They're always outrunning the devil. The devil wants to send them to heaven so they can send them to hell. And they both died at 50 years apart in a finishing school in England. They were killed, and the school covered up their deaths, and so they were pissed about it. But anyway, they go to the sea, and they talk to the creatures that are in the sea.
Mm.
And yeah, it's real interesting. So, if you, that's another thing to do, but it's another, be aware they're coming, and they're not going to not come.
No, they're here.
And they're even showing themselves to Danny in the forest.
Yeah.
If you can get to the forest, or to whatever you have that's ground worthy. I mean, they're critters in the desert too.
Yeah. Of course.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And I want to thank Danny for coming here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank all the people who showed up. It's absolutely a stunning number of people to show up for one of my midday meetings.
Yay. Yay.
And another word for beings you might find when you're looking at plants, they'll call them divas, DEVA. And that they're all just words for what the energy is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.